It's already working?
Yeah.
But we need to wait a few more minutes, right?
Sure. Yeah, 3 more minutes.
Two more minutes. Oh, it's already on.
Yeah.
So should I start then?
Okay.
Okay.
Or you can wait for 2 more minutes.
Okay. Good day, my name is Cintia. I'm a clinical psychologist working at LifeWorks, and today we are going to talk about the importance and impact of mental health at workplace. So, as we all know, the work is a place that we spend like a huge amount of our time, even though when we don't realize. So at least we spend a third of our private time at work. And it's one of the environment that most affects our physical and mental health. And whatever happens at work usually also impacts our life, not only the work life, it's also the private life. So the International Labour Organization points out interaction between the labor environment and the content of work, the condition of the organization, and the skills, needs, culture of the worker, as well as a personal aspect external to work, constitute psychological aspects, psychological risk factor, which based on your personal work perception, they can impact in the health, the job performance, and also the satisfaction of your job. That's why it's really important that we find a place where we feel comfortable while we are working. So sometimes we don't consider the importance of the calm and the comfortability when we are at work, because we believe it's only work, but it's more than that. So a part of all the difficulties that we might face at work, this year in 2020, the word COVID-19 appeared in our vocabulary, and mainly in our workspace. This word has generated a lot of fear, insecurity, anxiety in almost everybody. At the same time, the current situation has made people to analyze their priorities, needs, and how they want to live their lives. So even though when most of people consider it that their central axis of life it's around their family or friends, it's so important that we understand that the work is also a really important part of our life. Usually we spend something in between 8 to 10 hours. So we need to think about that we don't only spend time at work, it's the time that we spend while we go to work and while we come back from work. Plus, if we spend any time at work, at home doing some work, the work can be a place that gives us a lot of satisfaction, improve our self-esteem, make us feel that we have achieved something really good. But at the same time, we can get a lot of negative impact. We can get a low self-esteem if we don't feel comfortable or we don't feel valued by our peers and our colleagues and also our boss. So it's really important to check around and see how our work makes us feel. So what mental well-being means, mainly when we think about work. So there is a lot of different definition, but one of the easiest one is the relationship between an employee productivity and his/her happiness. So when we think about work, it's not only about the task that we have, it's about the relationship that we do with our colleague, the relationship that we do with our clients, the feeling that we receive when we go into the workplace, is much more than only the work. So the work well-being is one of the keys to get a productive team, motivate and commit to the company. When it comes to working well-being, not only do we mean healthy health and not suffering from disease, but also emotional well-being that makes people feel happy with what they do. So that's why it's really important that we try to find a balance between the life, our private life and our work life, but also it's really important to try to improve the positive feelings that we get from work. At the same time, we need to remember that we are not only an employee or only a worker. So we need to be able to separate work life and private life. So we cannot be all the time working. How to improve the well-being of workers. So having a healthy life is really important. So when the company promotes that the employees should follow a healthy lifestyle, it's also giving themselves a good income of workers, because if the workers are really happy with the company, the productivity will be higher. So things like stimulating sport practice, facilitate family time, be flexible with hours when the employees have family or kids, create a comfortable working environment, so where also our workspace is appropriate for us. So having a nice chair, having a nice table, having the proper resource, having a good internet, having a good computer. But it's also really important to give the break time at work. The break time is not only for the employee to have time to have a coffee or go into the toilet or smoke a cigarette. It's also the time that usually they have to interact with other colleagues. When you create a good bonding between your employees, then they will be more willing to go to work because they would like to spend time with their peers or their colleagues. Another important thing is at the same time that we mention which areas or which work is not well done, we need to be able to recognize the employee's work, being able to find the strength. It's really important to be able to recognize an employee's strength, because once you recognize the employee's strength, you can use this strength in order to improve his or her whole working output. Also giving the opportunity to attend trainings or to bring trainings to their own company, it's something really important, because then the employee feels that it counts to the workplace. The benefits of mental well-being at work. The well-being of the team at work will bring a number of incalculable benefits for the company. So when we think about how much a company needs to invest in order to have employees with good mental health, we might feel that it's a big amount. However, if we find out how much we can reduce the sick leaves when somebody's happy, then also we will find out that this money has been really good invested. When people are happy at work, their motivation is also high, which means that they will produce more in less time, and which will mean as well that the work that they do have a better quality. When you offer trainings, also you are increasing the skills of your staff, which will make your company to offer a better service. When the employees have a good mental health, they also want to stay in a place that don't give them stress, and they feel happy about that. And the last one is the environment and personal relationships are improved when there is a good mental well-being at work. So the impact of mental health at workplace. So COVID-19 has changed the way we work, but also have improved a lot of, or have shown us a lot of feelings that we didn't know that we have it, like fear or anxiety. We have now a lot of strong emotion, negative emotion, that make us feel overwhelmed and stressed in the workplace, which means that we can lead to a mental difficulty or mental exhaustion of external side. How this emotion and stress can affect your well-being. The well-being of your loved ones, people at work, and your community. It's critical that you recognize the sign of stress. So either if you are the worker or you are the employer, you need to be able to recognize your own negative feelings, your own stress, but also your employees' stress, in order to help them to get over this situation. How we recognize the stress symptoms that we can be suffering or other might be suffering. So when we feel more irritated, angry, or we feel that we have a negative attitude, or we see this in others, when we have a feeling of uncertainty, nervous or anxious, with our motivation is less, we have difficulties to wake up, we take longer to complete a task that usually we were fast. When there is a new task that we have been asked for doing and we don't feel excited about, when we feel tired from early morning, when we feel overwhelmed, when ideas don't come to our mind, when we feel sad or depressed, when we have difficulty to sleep, when we cannot concentrate as good as we concentrate before, when we don't eat well. So all those symptoms might show us that there is an emotional difficulty related to job. So it's gonna be good either to find a professional to help us, or maybe if we have somebody at our workplace that can help us with that, we can also comment to that person. So the most common work-related factors that can contribute to stress during pandemic. So right now we are super concerned about how much we exposure to the virus. So we know where we have been, but we are not really sure about where others have been. So we don't know if they have been in a crowd place. We don't know how much care they are taking with their health. We feel that we cannot have the same interaction with others. The other concern, usually it's related to if we get it, then we will pass to our family. So we need to keep meeting personal and family needs while we are working, even though when we are super stressed about that. Handling the changes. So most of the people during the pandemic, and mainly during the lockdown, they needed to rebuild themselves and find out how to perform their work from work with the difficulty that they couldn't separate life from, like, private life from work life. Another difficulty is the lack of access to the tools and equipment that we need for doing our job. So creating new solutions for problems is a really good thing. It makes us more creative, but also it gives us a lot of stress. Then also we got, because we are not in our office anymore, we have the feeling of not contributing enough in our job, or blaming ourselves for not being the work in the front line of defense. Another situation is we feel unsecure about what is going to happen in the future about our job, and how are we going to deal with that? Plus, we need to learn, or we have learned, how to use new communication tools. Tips for developing resilience and coping with work stress. So, as I mentioned before, the relationship between colleagues is really important. So when we are allowed, or we allowed others to have peer relationship, we are allowing them as well to have a space to talk and mention about how they feel, and maybe get some advice from their own colleague or supervisor or other employees. But it's really important that we need to be 2 meters away, or 2 feet or 6 feet away when we have this interaction. So at the same time that we need the social interaction, we need to be aware about keeping ourselves safe. So when we talk with our colleague, we can try to identify what caused the stress and find a solution together. We need to be clear and be able to be open with the employees about how we feel and how the pandemic is affecting our work, and how we need to explain our expectation about the situation and get a common ground. See how you can access to mental health resource in your workplace. So there is a lot of companies that are providing either certain guidelines or they are offering certain emotional support to their workers because they know that the situation is really hard right now. We need to identify things that we don't have to control over, and we need to do our best with the resource that we have available. So sometimes we get stressed because we want to do things in the same way that we were doing before, but we don't have the resource. So in this point, sometimes or most of the time it's fine if we go and ask, okay, this is how I did before, but now I cannot do it that way. So I found this answer or I found this solution. Can I use it? Sometimes the solution that we have found probably might be the best one, but sometimes we might need to listen to other people's opinion in order to make everything easier. It is really important to maintain the routine. Routine is really important, not only now with COVID, it's when we have a routine, our mental health is calmer. So we are usually calmer and less stressed when we have a routine, because we know from fact that we will have time for everything that we need. If we had a daily routine before the pandemic started, then we can try to bring it back and follow the same times that we were doing before. In the case that we didn't have before the COVID-19 lockdown, it's time to find out which times are best for us to do certain stuff. So for example, there are certain people that for them will work much better if they wake up earlier and have some sport before, some exercise before they go to work, because this makes them feel more active during the day. But then for other people, when they do a sport, after a sport, they need to rest. So for those people, it's better to have sport after work, not before work. Have enough time to take your breakfast before going to your work is also really important. So then we need to consider what time we need to wake up in order to be able to have it. Maintain regular breaks. Have time to speak with your colleagues. Have time with family. So if we already have a family, it's really important that in our routine we include this family time. But at the same time, if we don't have family, we will need to find time for our friends. So what has happened nowadays is, because it's more difficult to meet people due to the circumstance, we have stopped to chatting or interacting with our friends because we don't want to bother them. And we don't want to tell them our problems, which it's making us be more lonely, and this creates even more stress on us because we don't have anybody to talk about. So the social interaction outside the work is really, really important. I do understand that now it's more difficult to meet outside, but we have a lot of resources that we can use. So we can have video chats, we can call them, we can send them a message. So there is a lot of ways that we can communicate. But nowadays we also can meet in restaurants. So if we take enough care, we can go outside for having a coffee, or you can go to an open area where the risk is less and have a walk, or maybe do some exercise with your friends, some light exercise, of course, otherwise you won't be able to talk, to make our brain breathe and to disconnect from work and to find solution for problems that probably we feel that they have no solution. As I mentioned, outdoor time is really important. So mainly now that the weather is becoming better, it's really important that we spend more time outside, because we have been indoors for a long time, and our sense need to receive the input of the air, the feeling of the sun, the wind. So we need to try to find, at least on a daily basis, to spend some time outside, like a short walk, like 10 minutes walk, or if you can cycle, will be perfect. Even though if you work from home, you need to try to find time for going outside. If you work from home, you also need to have your schedule. And it's really important that you don't delay that. So if your working hours are from 8 till 4, it's fine if one day you need to stay longer, but you cannot make this a routine. Why? Because when we work longer one day, our body will accept that. When we do for 2 days, our body will accept that. But we will reach a point where our brain is really exhausted, and any activity will take us triple time that we used to need, and it will make us feel not really capable. So this will impact in our self-esteem, and also this will impact in the way that we perform at work. So fixing the timing is really important. Working timing is really important for keeping your pace at work. We can use external sites to reduce our stress. We need to find things that make us enjoy. We need to find new things that make us enjoy. Of course, we cannot do everything that we did before, but we can try to explore new activities that we might have fun with and do them. And if we enjoy it, then keep doing them. Learn about COVID-19 and how to protect yourself and others. So we need to be empathetic and not only take care of ourselves. When we are taking care of ourselves, we need to think about others as well. So of course, if you are sick, you're already sick, you said, I don't mind, I don't need to wash my hands because I'm already sick. But we need to think about our peers and our friends and our family. So it's really important that we all follow the rules that has been established. Understanding the risk. Understand the risk means that we need to be realistic. Of course, this is a virus. Of course, we can get it. But we cannot make up information or exaggerate the information that we got, because this will generate more stress in ourselves, and also we will increase the stress in other people. We need to remember that we all have the key for stopping this situation. Once we feel overwhelmed or we already feel stressed, and we have tried many different ways to go over that, and you still cannot go over that, and you have shared these feelings with your friends or with your colleague, and you still don't find a way to feel better, then you can go to your doctor and check if it's a normal feeling of stress, or is something that you need support to get over that. We struggle sometimes to identify when our mental health is not in the right place. It's easier when it's our physical health, because we have things like fever, or we cough, or we are tired. But with the mental health, usually it's more difficult because we feel, well, this is what everybody's suffering. Well, everybody's having bad time, but not everybody is having the same feeling about the pandemic. Not everybody is coping in the same way with the change. Not everybody is coping in the same way with challenge. So this is really important to understand. And because your colleague is doing perfectly well with all the changes, you cannot feel guilty because you don't feel in the same way. There is nothing wrong on you. It's mainly we have different strategies, different skills, different personalities to cope or to afford different situations. And it's perfectly fine to ask for help. This is the main thing. So it doesn't matter if we get physically sick or mentally sick. If we feel that we are not coping as good as we were coping before, look for help. As I mentioned, remember that everybody is in an unusual situation and we have limited resources. There is really important to find the balance between getting enough information about COVID or being focused only about COVID news. So we cannot be constantly watching news about COVID or reading COVID news or listening to news that are focused only on COVID. We need to open our mind and be out of the COVID. We know that it's there, but we cannot be 100 of our brain cannot be focused on COVID. We need to give some breathe. So it's fine that we need to be up to date, but we cannot be constantly looking for new news about that. And also you can, if you do that, probably your topic will become repetitive and you will try to get more information about COVID from people and you will make people feel a little bit upset about the situation. Okay. Tips for developing resilience and coping with work stress. Connect with others. Talk to people you trust. You need to share with them your concern, how you feel, how you have been affected by COVID-19. The same thing that you need to do with if you have kids. So you are showing them how to explain feelings, and everybody feelings are fine too. So it's fine if you feel okay with the situation, but it's fine if you don't feel okay with that. As I mentioned before, we can call, we can email, we can text message, even we can try to send letters or mail postcard, video calls, social media, see how other people are doing, helping others to improve their sense of control, belonging and self-esteem. Look for safe ways to offer social support to others, especially if they show signs of stress, such as depression or anxiety. If you are being treated for a mental health condition before, or you are still on that, continue the treatment and be aware of any new symptoms or if you become worse. If you have been already under a mental health treatment before the COVID-19 start, you need to follow up yourself continuously and see if you feel the same or if there is something new or if you have become worse than you felt before. So this has been the talk. If somebody has any question, there is no question here. So thank you so much. Have a lovely day. you.